Welcome to another Horror Franchise Wednesday. Let's talk about Tremors 3 Back to Perfection. But first, let me ask you a question. Do you keep your head up your ass? Is your head up your ass for warmth? That's the best line in the movie. So, we got the return of a lot of the characters from part 1. Love that cast continuity. You got the pogo stick girl back, you got the mom back, you got Burt Gummer back, and now this is when he becomes the star. In the first one you had Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward. In the second one you have Fred Ward. Now it's Michael Gross. It's his show. And he won an award for his acting in this one. I read that he won Best Actor, the Video Premiere Award. This is the only one to be rated PG, so that makes it stand out from the other ones. Although I feel like it could be PG-13. They say ass a lot, and there's alien, if you want to call them aliens. There's graboid gore in this one just as much as there was in the other ones. I'm not sure why this one was PG and the other ones were PG-13. The budget went up, but weirdly enough, the quality went down, for me at least. The quality is not as strong as the first two, which is just shocking. When I read the budget, it was like over $6 million, and then part 2 was $4 million. I'm not sure where that budget went. Maybe it went towards these god-awful ass blasters. Maybe that's where it went. Speaking of people coming back from the first one, I read that there was an actor who played the co-worker on the road, the construction worker with the other guy, the jackhammer dude. I heard he is in this movie playing Agent Rusk. I didn't recognize him, but I thought that was really interesting. So, yeah, they brought even dead people from part 1 back in this one as new characters, if that trivia is correct. And so, yeah, let's get into it. Plot is the same plot. Michael Gross, he has to stop the Tremors. They're back, and they're evolving. Now, instead of just Graboids and Shriekers, we got the introduction to a different monster called Ass Blasters. And yeah, I think that was the mistake in this one. But let's get into the things that I liked about Tremors 3. I like that they decided to go back to perfection, if this was the last one, to end things where it all began, just have the same location, and it looks like the same location. It's pretty spot on. I'm not sure if it was like a set rebuilt or if this is an actual place, but I like that they went back to perfection. I like the return of the cast from the first one, the mom, the pogo stick girl. I don't know their names, so that's what I'm going to call them. You got Michael Gross back as Burt Gummer, and I like his new partner in this one. In part 2, he had Grady or Brady. I thought he was kind of annoying. In this one, we got this new guy named Jack, who is basically this scam artist, selling people tour rides, like some kind of safari tour, kind of like a Jaws ride at Universal Studios. It's all fake, it's all a show. And I really like that concept. I thought that was kind of funny, and I liked his character. And I like that this one had a very consistent comedic tone. It set the tone right out the gates when Burt is on like this big old machine gun mowing down shriekers in the open. It let you know what you were in for from the get-go. And it carried that tone throughout. It was very silly all the way through. Some moments were a little too silly, but I still had a fun time watching this. I wasn't ever bored. I like the idea behind the flying Graboids. I don't like the execution at all. All the CGI and them shitting fire out their ass. I thought that was just a little step too far for me personally. But I like the idea, because before, in the first one, they could only attack you from below. So then the second one, they're like, how can we up it? Well, now they can attack you from above ground. And then this one was like, well, how can we up that? Now they can attack you from the air. So it's like nowhere safe. You can't climb a rock and stand on top. You can't climb a building high on the roof. Nowhere is safe now. So I like that. It kind of, creates a little bit of tension. It's like they're not safe anywhere. So now let's just get into the things I didn't like about this movie. I already talked about the ass blasters. I thought they were just a little too silly, and I really just didn't like the CGI. I would not mind it as much if these ass blasters were all practical, but no, we had to get a bunch of CGI shots, and there's way more. Like, part 2 had some CGI, but comparing it to 3, this one has, like, way more, tenfold. It's just like CGI, 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 and this is the first of the series to have a CGI graboid, and it just felt so unnecessary to have that in the movie. And I read that this movie even borrowed footage from part 1 of the Graboids. So it's like they were too lazy to make their own practical effect Graboids in this one, so you just borrow footage from part one. If that is true, it's just like you could do it in one, you could do it in two. Why can't you do it in three? I just couldn't stand all the CGI shots. They just looked horrible. It looked like a video game. And I know it's 2001. It's only a $6 million budget. I can't harp on it too much, but it still irritates me. It still irritates me knowing that they could do it before and they just chose to cop out and give you some CGI monstrosity. And I know it sounds kind of hypocritical coming from a guy who loves the Friday the 13th franchise, but at this point in the series, the story is just getting kind of redundant at this point. So it's like if I want to see this story again, I can just go watch part one because it's a much far superior film. It's just the same story in every single movie. They have to go kill the Graboids, and that's it. Like it's as simple as that. The only thing they do different in each movie is they added an extra monster. They added the Shriekers in part two, and then they added ass blasters in this one, which was just, like I said, a bad decision. And they don't even show the Shriekers in this movie outside of the beginning, which I thought was another mistake. It's like they're more scary to me than these farting dipshits flying in the air. These ass blasters, like they don't show these Shriekers outside of the beginning. You hear them in one scene, but then that's it. So it's like, where are the Shriekers? Why aren't there more of them? It doesn't make sense. Another little issue I had with the movie was the character of Jodie. She's the daughter or niece or relative of Chang from part one who owned the store. Now she's taken over. It's like, I like that continuity going. It makes sense that she would take over the place, but I didn't like her performance. Thought her acting was weak, and I didn't care for her, drama that she was having with Jack. It just dragged the pace down a little bit. Every time it was just focusing on them bickering over nonsense. I didn't care about them as a couple at all. Once again, just like in part two with what's her face and Fred Ward, I just wasn't caring about it. You would think since this is the first one where it's just Michael Gross, it's just Burt, he's the star now, that this one would be more funny because he's always been like the biggest comedic, character in the first two. He's the one everyone loves. You would think in this one they would up that, they would dial that up or make him a little bit more goofy. In this one, I felt like he was less entertaining, slightly less entertaining than he was in part two. He had the one funny line about "Is your head up your ass for warmth?" But he didn't have a whole lot of funny lines in this one that I was kind of expecting. I was expecting a little bit more comedy, a little bit more action sequences, because one and two have plenty of fun action sequences. In this one, there's hardly any. The ending didn't really have much of a climax. It felt kind of just quick. It was just a little too quick. And yeah, I just wish there was more comedy in here, a lot more action sequences. But I feel like just most of the budget went towards the stupid CGI. Final thoughts, this is an okay sequel. It's not the best. It's right there with part 7 for me. I didn't like the introduction to these ass blasters. I felt like it needed a little bit more adrenaline in it, a little bit more action, a little bit more comedy. You got Burt as the star now. They should, make him shine a little bit brighter in this film. He just felt less entertaining than the first two to me. So when it comes to Tremors 3, Back to Perfection, if you're a fan of the first two, go in with lower expectations with this one because the quality to me takes a bit of a dip. So I would recommend that you just stream it or rent it at Redbox. Alright, spoiler discussion. So, this movie opens up in Argentina this time. The second one was Mexico, now we're in Argentina. Graboids are everywhere now. They're spreading like a wildfire. And Burt's getting interviewed. He's showing them how to kill the Shriekers, and they're finally named. I never heard the word Shrieker in part 2. Maybe it was said, and I missed it, but I didn't hear it. In this one, it's said right off the bat, and then we see Burt gunning down hundreds of CGI Shriekers. And we see that there's all kinds of comic books now for the Graboids. And this guy has a Graboid like tour, kind of like a Jaws ride. You got the guy with the fire extinguisher, but shooting like dust and stuff. It's a funny little gag in the movie, a little funny joke. And we got the return of Pogo Stick Girl. And I looked it up. That's the same actress. I didn't recognize her, but that was the same actress from part 1. Then the scammer guy, he gets eaten alive. This is like one of the only times we see a practical Graboid in the movie, swallows him whole, and that one guy's like taking pictures of him as it's happening. And then they're like bitching afterwards, like, our lives are in danger. It's like you signed up to go on a Graboid tour. These things that I'm sure you've heard in the papers can take down cars. Like, you should have known what you were signing up for. So the fact that you're giving these people shit, like, oh my gosh, we could have died. It's like, no shit. You know? Like, you sign up to go on a fucking volcano tour that you know is active, and then volcano lava's coming towards you. You don't bitch at the tour guy like, what the fuck? I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for lava to come chase my ass down. I love that Burt created like this whole cement wall beneath the ground around his house. Very smart, and he has like a siren that he like cranks and it lets everyone in perfection know like they're coming. I like that we get to see that the remote control car idea from part 2 is now like an official product. They're called like Graboid Hunter remote control cars. And I like that they don't use it again in this movie because that would be even more redundant. So I like it's just here as a wink to the Tremors 2 fans, people who saw part 2, like, oh, look, it's the remote control cars again. And then the government comes in, and of course, just like in a lot of movies like this, they want to keep them alive. You gotta research them and find out how they do what they do and where they've been, blah, blah, blah. It's like Jason X. Like, I don't want them frozen, I want them soft. It's just so stupid. It's like, really, we need to keep this endangered species alive that could potentially wipe us all out because we just want to know things about it. Get the fuck out of here. Like, who gives a shit? It's not like it's a panda bear. I understand that. Not a Graboid. Let it die. Let it die. And then we see a CGI Graboid by Burt Shelter. So stupid. Like, really, was that shot so hard to pull off? Like, oh, how are we going to do this? I know. Computer. Let that do it. Like, it always just bums me out. I hate CGI. Is your head up your ass for warmth? It sure is. And then we see these 300-year-old eggs, so now we know why they're attacking now. The eggs that finally hatch. I guess it just takes hundreds of years for these eggs to hatch. They go from Graboid to Shrieker to Ass Blaster, and then the Ass Blasters lay eggs, and then the cycle repeats. So there's the answer for why they're attacking now. And then Melvin's back, and he's even a bigger asshole than he ever was before in the first one. I don't know, he just seems like an asshole still. Like, he's an asshole to me. Like, in the first one, he was the prankster, and now in this one, he wants to build houses on this land, and Burt's against it. And by the end of it, he finally comes back, and Burt traps him on the rock with the CGI Graboid underneath. Which, why wouldn't that Graboid just follow Burt? Why was it stuck there? Like, he has the remote control car, like, circling the rock, and Melvin's stuck, like, you asshole, come back, pick me up. Like, that remote control car is not causing as much vibration and noise as your truck, Burt. I would think that the CGI, I keep wanting to call it that, the CGI Graboid would chase after Burt's truck and not focus on Melvin on top of the rock. I just thought that was kind of silly. And then they bring back the stupid chain with the cans attached to it as if that's necessary. I mean, come on. You don't need all that added noise. They can find you by the slightest vibration on the earth. So you don't need all that can bullshit. And then I like that Burt gets swallowed and you think maybe he's dead. And now Jack's going to be the star of the movie. Nope. But the Graboid, just like in part 1, hits the wall underneath the ground that he built around his house. Very smart. And then he gets a chainsaw. Chainsaws the Graboid, gets him out, and somehow doesn't like nick Burt with the chainsaw. I have to call BS on that one. Like, he would have gotten, like, how do you know what part of the Graboid to cut into? How do you know how deep to go? You could have hit Burt with that chainsaw, buddy. But he didn't, of course. And so then they're stuck on the rocks again for a while, and this is when the movie kind of slows down a little bit. We start hearing a bunch of drama between Jody and Jack, and it doesn't really go anywhere in the end. I don't remember them like becoming a couple by the end. Maybe they did. It's been a couple days since I've watched it. But yeah, all that stuff is just unnecessary. They're like arguing about ice and then something else. I don't know. And then we find out that food is the weakness for the ass blasters. They eat too much, they go in like a coma, and they just die or something like that. So that was different. All right, and then there's just this convenient mattress just laying in the middle of the desert for them to put above them. So this is kind of like mirroring the scene in part 2 where they have to hold a door. And now in this one, they have to hold a mattress above them so that the flying monsters, ass blasters, can't see them. And then they start building potato guns and It's like a bow and arrow and a pipe type of thing, shooting fire arrows at them, and then they explode. Like all that stuff could have been done better. Then we find out that the watch has a purpose in the film. He brought it up earlier, and then finds out that there's like a tracking thing on it. Like the Graboid can track him because of it, and then he throws the watch on the ass blaster. Ass blaster gets chewed up by the Graboid, and it just looks absolutely awful. Because once again, it's CGI, and it just looks absolutely terrible. Horrid CGI. And then Jack does get the girl. I wrote it down. Another thing that's redundant here. At the end of all these movies, is that like the common theme here? I can't remember part 7 because that movie was awful, but did somebody win a girl's heart by the end of that? I bet someone did. John Hader. Did he get a girl by the end of that movie? I bet he did. Because in this one, Jack gets Jodie by the end of it, and Melvin's trapped on the rock where he belongs forever. Let him starve, like that guy in the first Tremors on the electrical tower or whatever. That would be funny. That's how part 4 should pick up. We just see Melvin on the rock, and he's a skeleton. He's just dead. Good riddance, Melvin. So yeah, that's the end of the movie. Hockey Mask Award for best character in this film to me is Jack, because I thought he was actually more funny and more entertaining than Michael Gross was. Call me crazy, but that's just how I feel. And the best scene in this movie is when Burt gets swallowed by the Tremor and then has to get freed by Jack with the chainsaw, like all that Tremor guts spraying everywhere. It was the most entertaining scene in the movie for me. And the Hanky Award for worst character in this movie to me was Jodie, just because I didn't like her performance. I thought she was just kind of annoying to me. So there you go, Jodie. And there you go. There's my brutally honest review. Hate on it all you want. I still recommended it. All right, I enjoyed it. I just didn't love it. I feel like I have to defend myself here because I've been getting a lot of shit for hating Tremors 7. But you know what? I stand by it. Didn't enjoy that movie. It was a bit of a bore. This one, I enjoyed it somewhat. It was just the ass blasters and CGI that was a little too much for me. But there you go. Tremors 3. What did you think about it? Is it your favorite? Let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.